Welcome, everyone. It's the Mike Tech Show, show number 943. Tonight, going to talk about Microsoft MFA and a rollout this week of a client, and it gets funny. I have a great Excel tip that I'm going to demonstrate that I had to figure this out, how to do it for a client. And then I was like, wow, I should share this. And then I figured, well, I might as well have some word tips, at least a link. Going to talk about 23andMe and show you how to delete your data, if that really works or not, and if it really is being deleted. Okay. So first, I want to remind everybody, if you're doing your taxes, you're running out of time, unless you're going to file for an extension. I swore no extension. So everything over the weekend, or was it over the weekend, or it might have been Monday, I got everything in the hands of my CPA. And I'm now waiting just to see how bad it's going to be. This is a true story from my son, who had to install a new computer and take the computer and transfer all the data from the old computer to the new computer. This is one of 15 computers that were ordered by clients this week to try to avoid what might be the results of the tariff. And Dell admitted to me today, because there was a bigger deal, a big portion of that was a 9-computer order, that when I tried to get it requoted, finance came back to my rep and said the following: no, because not only are they going to be reevaluating everything for pricing, but look for Monday prices to go up, where Dell is, I can't speak for all the other computer manufacturers, but I'm sure they are, where they're assessing what the tariffs percentages are going to be for components that they import, and then they're going to raise the prices accordingly. So So take that info and use it as you will. The quote expires midnight Sunday night into Monday. So client pulled the trigger today to try to save some money. All right. So normally on a new system, and especially for a new client, we will put Malwarebytes and Premium on the computer. And then he took it over, and the guy says, oh, I buy Norton. I pay for Norton. And my son tried to convince him to put Malwarebytes on, that, stick with that. And he left it on while he was doing the transfer. And Malwarebytes just lit up with all kinds of finding all kinds of infections for the transfer of the files from the old system, and that old system was running Norton. Now, the client's watching this, where my son said, Norton did not find any of these, and these were some pretty bad Trojans, and, so he quarantined everything, deleted everything. Client still insisted to remove Malwarebytes and put Norton on. So at that point, my son, you just obey and you don't question it. But that I had to share. That is funny. I wrote here in my notes, Microsoft MFA rant, and it's not a rant so much as a complaint. Now, we have a client that, in order to be compliant with some of the clients that they work with, they had to have MFA turned on. Now, we had it turned off because they have some older employees that this is going to cause a problem. Well, welcome to my week. Well, really, and my son's week. We were working with the clients and ran into two. One, the Android, because Microsoft is now forcing you to have the Authenticator app. You used to be able to have a choice where you could just use your cell phone and get a code. Now, I know clients that still have that, but it seems like Microsoft's rolling out forcing you to have the Authenticator app. Now, the Android phone owned by one of these employees is too old to run the app. He has to upgrade his phone. So I called the owner, got permission for him to wait until he gets a new phone, and then we will walk him through the MFA. We have another employee, and you can't make this up. You just can't. Has a flip phone. A flip phone. We had to turn that person off because they refuse to buy a smartphone. So I left that in the hands of the owner. They got to work that out. And I'm talking to the owner, and I said, you may have to buy this person a phone, so, or, make it a condition of employment, which I would have never thought of. But you know what? Maybe that is becoming now a condition of employment is to own a smartphone. I don't even know how you can exist, especially in a world with MFA. So that's just amazing. So here's the next one. The third employee. That is 11 employees. The third one refuses to put any app on her personal phone. Now, she has a current phone. Refuses to put an app required by the company on her personal phone. So I'm talking to the owner, and the owner doesn't want to buy phones for everybody. And this is amazing. When we made the case that Microsoft is forcing this, not the employer, and with actually several of their clients, we've for cyber insurance, cyber security, and they're requiring MFA. Everybody's requiring MFA on everything, and it should. This is how you make it secure. So she did back down, and we installed the app and finished. So this is not done. We actually have more stories that are not MFA related that are still in the process that we are going to discuss in the future. So we're going to leave that because it's not finished yet. There are some other things that we're running into. Now, this is a remote workforce. They are 100% remote. And they have to go to their company's clients to do audits and different things. So it's got to be very secure. So let's just say rolling out the VPN is also very, very challenging. Okay. So I know Kate will relate to this, who retired, who's a longtime listener, and I've read her emails. And I have an email that's going to put a smile on your face at the end of tonight's show, a link that Kate shared with me. So let's, I mentioned her because she worked with an older clients, and usually I leave that for my son, but even I couldn't escape it this week. Right now, had a client in the beginning of the week that asked me how can she get data that is in a table from the web. Now, of course, the example I'm showing is not this table, but I picked one. This table and get it into Excel without retyping everything? And I was like, I don't know, but let me research. And it didn't take long. I was able to find out. As a matter of fact, this is the link I'm going to have, how to import data from the web, where you can just go in and do it. And I said, you know what? I need to demonstrate this because I tested it, and this is how I tested it. And anybody who's in any kind of a fantasy draft, boy, do I have some things that you're going to want to do. And this is, you take the link, and I have the ESPN Fantasy Baseball, because you know my love for baseball. And when I was in a fantasy league, I would have killed to know this and to realize this. So you copy the link, and I'm just copying it right now. And then I'm going to open up Excel, and then we do data, and we want to get data. And where do we want to get it? We want to get it from other sources from the web. So we're going to, from the web, and now it's going to bring up and ask me for a link. At least it's supposed to. And there's the link, and we're going to go, I've only went basic. I never went advanced. So let's just go basic. And this is for, all the rankings of all the ball players. And we're going to say, okay. And then we're going to say connect. And then we're just going to answer all the questions in the affirmative when it comes up. So it's connecting right now. They're establishing a connection to ESPN.com. And then now it's going to ask us a couple questions. It's going to, no items for preview. And let's take a look at table 1. And it's evaluating table 1. And there you go. It looks pretty good. It's ESPN's ranking, the player number, the team, the positions. Oh, this is nothing. Wait until you see this. We're going to click load. So not only is it going to bring all of the data into Excel, it's going to put it where we can sort by column. Now it comes up and it asks us, for the format, what color do I want? Well, I love blue, so let's just pick blue. And there we go. And I'm going to close the comments here. Now, let's say we're drafting by position. And you can see, of course, Shohei Ohtani is number 1. And then, Bobby Witt Jr. is 2. And then Aaron Judge from the Yankees. So let's say we have to rank first baseman. So let's go to the column where there's positions, and we want to see, hey, what does ESPN recommend? So now, instead of selecting all right here for all the categories, we're just going to select first baseman. We're going to say, okay. There we go. That quick, I have a rank of Major League Baseball's first baseman. Yes. I wanted to do this because let's see, AutoMod held a message. Okay. Someone was putting a message in, and the Autobot in the chat was not allowing it, and I'm allowing it because it wasn't offensive. So now take a look. Is this amazing? I mean, could you think of what you can do? Boy, I would love to see a show of hands of who knew this, because I certainly did not. And when I did this for the client and remoted in, they were ecstatic, knowing that they did not have to re-enter everything, and it pulled everything in perfectly. Let's say I want to rank by just a couple teams or something else, but mostly it's going to be position. So let's not pick first baseman. Let's just get second baseman, or we can do second baseman and shortstop there. But you see all the options there. There's all the second basemans. So let's see, where does the Phillies second baseman rank? I don't even see him there. Where is he? He should be pretty high. Oh, Bryson Stott. There you go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. First baseman, there should have been Bryce Harper should have been up top. Yeah, he's number 2. They have Vladimir Guerrero ahead of him. So it's interesting. And then Freddie Freeman. Okay, I can't help myself when it's baseball. But boy, I could have used this. Now think of this with your football season going to be starting up again and all the different drafts, and to take a couple like not just ESPN, maybe some other sources to build your, to help you with the fantasy league. I thought this was pretty cool. So that is my Excel tip. So we can't just leave it at that. Of course, I'm going to have the description on how to do that. That's a Microsoft link. And then I'm like, okay, I can't just leave one tip. So here are 40 Excel tips for becoming a spreadsheet pro. And there's all sorts of, paint cells to a new format. Okay. Auto fit all the columns and rows instantly. This is something that I always have to do, because if I'm doing a table, there's always different lengths and widths, I always want the same row height. It's always the column width that I need to auto fit. So here, that's in there. Autofill cells that you got to put dates, maybe Control-Shift-Select to select everything. Drag the data around. Okay. Text to columns. This I've done when I've imported comma delimited or files. If I'm doing a conversion from somewhere, I haven't had to do that in a while. Boy, this got me into all kinds of looking at what to do for Excel. So hope you enjoy that link. So we're talking about Excel. I can't just leave that out there and do Excel. So let's Microsoft Word tips, 24 tips. And this is kind of older. This is a couple years old, so hopefully still relevant. But anytime I was searching or looking around, this keeps coming up, and it's from good old PC Magazine. So it's in the same format as the Excel tips. So here we got Word tips. Things that I always do that I'm always asked about is how to do a mail merge, because that's what an assistant or secretary is. Someone is always, they got to do like some mass mailings and they need to do a mail merge. So I always get involved in that. And it's not that bad. It's actually, pretty easy to work with. So here's select text from the keyboard. I'll tell you something I live in for, it should have been the first one. I'm going to make everybody dizzy. Find and replace. I'm always doing that because I have a lot of standard contracts, and not maybe it's a consultant agreement or a proposal, and I have my master, and I'm doing a search and replace always for the customer name. So that'll go through and make the change. So that's about the biggest extent I do in Word. I live in find and replace, and that always works perfectly. So needed to share that. Now, I don't use 23andMe. I did Ancestry when a few years ago, and I'm really glad because 23andMe's DNA data is going up for sale. And here's why companies might want it. This is the article where 23andMe filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So giving that, they have 15 million customers. So one of the things I wanted to know, and I think I seen Malwarebytes even came up with this, but I had already had this set up. Malwarebytes came up with a mass mailing talking about this. But I already had this in my show notes last week. The minute that Taz in the chat asked if I was going to talk about it on Saturday, and I was like, no, I wasn't. I'm not up on everything that's happening here. So I did. I have an article from NPR, how to delete your 23andMe data. And, you don't know, is it going to be true or not? Are you going to be able to do it? But here's what you do. You log into your 23andMe account on their website. You go to settings and then scroll to a section labeled 23andMe data at the bottom of the page. Click view next to that and then download your data. If you want a copy of your genetic data for personal storage, you paid for it, you might as well do it. After you do that, scroll to the delete data section and click permanently delete your data. You do not want your genetic information being sold. You have no idea where they're going to sell it or be told to sell it to recoup money because they're done. They've put in for Chapter 11. I don't know if they're going to be able to get past that. I know companies have done that and still been able to succeed. I don't know the details of their financing and everything, but this is whether this really works or not. I think if you've put data, if you've subscribed and you given your DNA over to 23andMe, do that. Makes me think about Ancestry. Are they going to go out and what if they do? Ooh, I'm not, don't like that. So but that's like, do we trust anybody out there? Are they say they don't use our data, but are they really not sharing it or not selling it? You just don't know. And again, you got to have some faith. So let's talk about some email. And this is a great email, and it's from Dan. And remember the the listener that needs to freeze the mail. Freeze the mail. I keep messing up here. They need to deep freeze to redo a system, okay? Because they rent the computers and they need a way to redo them. And Dan, thank you. Put this detailed email together, and I forwarded it on to the listener, who is very grateful and asked me to convey his thanks. He goes, "Hi, Mike. I'm a long-time listener here. Probably since around show 3, I remember the cat episode. That is interesting because he's writing this email on April 1st. And for those that don't know, years ago, when the first April 1st hit, I decided to let my wife do the show and pretend that I changed the show, not to the tech show. It's going to be the cat show. And she's taken over. And she even read the tech sponsors ads beautifully within talking about cats. I'm not making this up. This is great. And the problem is we didn't let the listener off the hook. Right to the end of the show, figuring, well, everybody's going to know it's April 1st. Of course, everybody's going to realize. The stack of hate mail that I got to this day was the greatest amount. What are you doing? What do you mean you're changing the cat? I mean, I'm like, people, don't you have a sense of humor? Anyway, I had to come clean the following show. See, I didn't let everybody off the hook at the end because I figured, oh, come on, you're going to, I didn't turn this into a cat show. Well, there was a lot of listeners that thought that that was happening. Anyway, Dan, thanks for reminding me, and especially as I'm staring at the date when you sent this email, which is April 1st, which I'm sure that's why you referenced this. He continues, I just wanted to chime in about Phoronix Deep Freeze. I'm a systems administrator for a fairly decent-sized library system to the west of St. Louis, Missouri. We have 11 branches, and we have about 320 computers protected by deep freeze. Some are laptops in mobile computer labs. Most are stationary desktop public use workstations. We've been running deep freeze for well over 10 years. Also, all of our computers are using SSDs, mostly 250 gig Samsung 860s. Most of these have been running in multiple versions of Dell Optiplexes, all the way back to the Dell Optiplex 760S. That should give you a sense of how long they've been in service. When the computers age out, we pull the SSDs, wipe them, then put an image for the latest generation of machine on them and swap them in, replacing the factory hard drive. In all that time, I think I've had maybe 3 SSDs fail, and it's not likely that these had anything to do with deep freeze. Deep freeze doesn't work the way that most people think it does. It doesn't wipe anything. It's a very low-level driver that takes a snapshot of the drive's block allocation map, copies it into RAM, and runs from that while the machine is frozen. When the machine reboots or loses power, the copy of the allocation map in RAM is lost. The actual data is written to unused space on the drive as a differential to the underlying frozen original data. The data is still there when the machine resets, but the block allocation map pointing to it is gone. So it's just jumbled data that can't be easily retrieved and is inaccessible without serious forensic tools. Also, as the machine is reused in frozen sessions and thawed for maintenance, that differential area is gradually completely overwritten. How I know this is an interesting story in itself. Every once in a while, we get a subpoena to turn over a machine that may have been used in a crime. One such time, a few weeks after we'd turned over a machine, the police forensic guy contacted me to ask how our drives were frozen so that they could see if they could get at the data. Since this was a legal subpoena and I was instructed to by upper management to assist them if needed, I gave him the contact info for Phoronix. The Phoronix Tech contact essentially told them how this works, and in talking back and forth with the police forensic guy, he relayed the info to me. In short, no, deep freeze won't wear out your SSD prematurely. That's a misconception. Buy decent quality SSDs and you should be fine. Always love the show, Dan. Dan, thank you for such a thorough explanation. It's why I love all of you for being there to answer questions that either I have or another listener has. It is tremendous. I always say I'm the conduit between problems and solutions, and that's my goal. So thank you so much. Okay. What else? Let's go to Israel. This is cool. He sent me a link on another new way to bypass to go to local to create a local account on new Windows. Now, this one works, I think, with Home and Pro. Now, we know the Pro version that I have is that I talked about was to pretend you're connecting to a domain. So let's This is the Microsoft account required. This is by Chris Titus. This is a good link.
The old Microsoft setup. And you might be thinking, Titus, haven't we been here before? Where Microsoft accounts are required to install technically owned? Absolutely not. And typical. And then down, timeout, 0,
All right.
and then reboot.
I'm just fast forwarding.
It's even better than the buy new command. And then we're going to go local only.
Okay. This is what you can listen to the whole link, but what I wanted to do is quickly share that once you hit that F10, trick at the certain point, you type start space ms-cxh : local only. The minute you're done, you're going to be prompted to explore the and enter the local data. I love this. It's very simple. I mean, even if you have the pro version, it's simple because you just pretend you're connecting to a domain that doesn't exist and it creates a local account. So very, very cool. I want to thank you for sending that in. Now, this is from Kate. I promised I would wrap up with something funny. So this link will also be in the chat, and it's from the Register. When even Microsoft can't understand its own Outlook, big tech is stuck in a swamp of its own making. I knew you have to love this. It's funny because it's true, and it's incomprehensible choices that triggered a manager at Microsoft to bubble over with amused sarcasm. Faced with Windows demanding he choose between Outlook New and Outlook New to open a link, he quipped, "Why not add Outlook Zero Sugar and Outlook Caffeine Free, adding some more fun options for good measure." This is great. So don't know how true this is, but hopefully it is. Make things that work for the billions, not the billionaires. That's great. And who am I thanking for? That's Kate. That was Kate that sent that in. And let me minimize this and get back to wrap up here. That was from Israel. Thank you for that one link that for the bypass. I really appreciate that. And please send me tricks, tips, links. Hit me up, MikeTechShow@gmail.com, and I will incorporate them into the show. I want to thank everybody for downloading and staying subscribed and listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. And watching on YouTube. I will post the video up always after the show and get it onto YouTube and the channel's Michael Smith MTS. That is it for tonight's show. Don't forget to please visit MikeTechShow.com for all your info, all the show notes, and hit the donation button. And don't forget Fabs Auto Backup. I have a link for that because that is what we are now using. Think of all these computers. We had to buy 15 computers this week, and we're already starting to roll them out. And the next couple of weeks, what are we going to do? We're going to take Fabs, and we're going to, for Auto Backup 7 Pro, and we're going to take that, and we're going to back up all the data, and then start the new computer up, and then use Fabs to bring it and put it back in. Now, if we could take the hard drive out of the system, we're just going to use the transfer feature, and we're going to be living in that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be doing remotely. I have a client that retired and sold his business. Haven't heard from him in years. Calls me up. He's now living in South Carolina, retired, wants a new computer, called me up. I'm having Dell drop ship it to him, and then once he gets it, I'm going to remote in, and I'm going to use an external hard drive, and I'm going to transfer the data to that drive, then walk him through getting the setup of the new system, have him get me remoted in, and I'm going to, of course, use Instant House Call to remote that in, and then we're going to have a backup discussion, because then I'll discuss, hey, do you want to use Magnus Box? And, I will set that up for you for online backup. So even though I don't have advertisers, I still use all of these products. So I think that's what they know. That's why they don't need to pay for the advertising, because I'm still going to talk about them. Anyway, I will always only talk about passionately the products that I personally use for my consulting company. Again, if you need any help, email me, miketechshow@gmail.com. I'll be glad to help you. And especially if there's any projects or any work, I'll always make myself available. Thank you. Good night. Tomorrow, I'm picking up my son, Tyler, my youngest. He's not a baseball guy, so that's why he wasn't here during March. But let's see. He's the only son who has not appeared on the Mike Tech Show. My oldest has a couple times. My middle son, who is big into music, and we've done post shows together. But my youngest, you've never really met. Let's see if next Thursday, while he's here, I can get him to be on the show. Okay, so let's hold out for that. And that's it. Same time, same channel next week. Bye-bye, everybody.